Are you all enjoying the day today?
Oh yeah.
I heard, is Bob still here? I heard Bob was the funnest moderator of the day. I was like, those are big, big shoes to follow. But thanks for joining. As was just mentioned, my name is Ruth Sun. It's my greatest pleasure to spend some time with you today. Talk a little bit about women allyship, but more importantly, what brings all of us together today, which is how do we make the tent wider, regardless of our ethnic background, our generational background, and the type of work that we do every day. So I hope you find today to be an engaging discussion to add and build on to what we've already discussed, as well as lead into a really, really good time together in the networking time that we had this afternoon. So before we get started, I am so pleased to be joined with my esteemed panel members, and I'm going to give each one of them an opportunity to introduce themselves. So starting with you, Mai, can you share with us a little bit about, one, who you are, and two, what makes you so excited to be here today?
Okay, I get a take two because I was with you in the morning where I was all tears talking about Emma, my 16-year-old daughter. I'm still a proud mother of a 16-year-old daughter named Emma. This time I'm saying it without tears. I have been the Chief People Officer of 10 different tech startups, which means I built the operating systems in some of these companies where I worked. But I am a big fan of women allyship and just in general promoting a lot of non-majority folks into the C-suite. So that's been the privilege of my life, and I'm at a point in my career where I think some of you might know this, but I'm semi-retired. So I finally have time to give back to the community that supported me. So I'm excited to share some nuggets of wisdom, and I hope that you all link in with me so I can help you one at a time.
Thanks so much, Mai. Next.
Hi everyone, my name is Vienna Wong. I'm currently the Chief Transformation Officer at Chobani. Hopefully you guys all use our products.
Yes.
Okay? If anyone does not currently can have like yogurt or coffee creamer or lactose coffee, please see me afterwards. Okay? All right.
Put my refrigerator.
Good. Everyone go out. If you don't have it, go out and buy it this afternoon. Okay? That's a call to action. So a little bit about me. I've been working for 25 years, and I'm looking forward to sharing a little bit more of my experience with you on this panel. What makes me the most excited about being with you all today is the fact that over the years I've gotten a lot of help, along the way to get me to where I am today. So I am hoping that today, is my sort of small token of appreciation of giving back. And also, but at the same time, really learning for my fellow panelists as well. So I'm really excited about this afternoon, and I hope you will all enjoy it.
Thanks so much, Vienna. Vivian.
Hi, everybody. So I'm also, like Mai, doing a two-peat. I just hosted, co-moderated the ERG panel at 1 o'clock, and I'm thrilled to be sitting on stage with these ladies up here. And I have to say, my household is a huge fan of Chobani. So I will need a selfie with you because my kids are going to go, oh my God, you saw who?
Awesome.
Huge fan of the creamer and the yogurt.
Thank you.
Two fronts. So my name is Vivian Young, and I'm the Global Head of Asian and Pacific Islander Affairs for JP Morgan Chase. I've been with the firm for 13 years, and I'm thrilled to be able to sit on this panel and talk about our experience, not only as Asian Americans, but as allies and allies to all, especially women, and how can we not only open the doors for others, but bring them through the door with us along the journey. But thrilled to be here, and thank you, John, for putting this together. Every time I get an email from you, I'm thrilled to be asked back. Let's turn it back to Ruth. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Vivian. So, team, today we've kind of curated 3 different questions to get some diverse perspective from our panel members. We are going to have some time for Q&A afterwards. So think through anything that you might want to ask us, and we can also continue the discussion during the cocktail session. But first question, and then maybe I can start with you, Mai, is how have you leveraged traditional stereotypes as it relates to our ethnic background or gender in ways to advance your career? And is there an example that you can share of a potential challenge or adversity that you turn to your advantage?
Ruth, okay, I'm going to stand up for a minute because I'm going to show you and demonstrate what happened early in my career. So I'm barely 5 feet. So when I'm sitting in a room of C-suite leaders, they're usually 6 feet, blonde hair, really menacing, and they command a room because they are so tall with loud voices. For me, I'm the opposite. I'm dark hair, petite, and the stereotype is Asians, are quiet and docile. And so a long time ago, a coach sat me down to say, Mai, when you volunteer to do some public speaking, you must walk the room. Because that way people see you. Because sometimes when I'm small, surrounded by all the long legs of the men in the room, because I've usually been the only woman in the room, I actually now use it. Like 20 years later, when I first heard the thought, I thought they were making fun of me for my size. Because I was like, why would you ever talk about my petiteness in corporate America? And then I realized, look, it's working. You're seeing me differently when I'm off the stage. So that's my example for you of how one stereotype or one different way of viewing who we are, if you use it to your advantage, it actually works, because now I know to walk the room so you can all see me.
Oh, that's so great. Carol, raise your hand. Carol's been, she did exactly the same thing last week when we had the CEO of Samsung come to our offices. Her and I were the only women in the room. And when she had to speak, she's like, I'm going to stand up. And she walked the room. Great example. Vienna, what about you?
All right, my turn. So I wanted to share sort of an example from the very beginning. When I first started my career in investment banking. This was in 1999. And back in the days, I think the world has improved and changed for the better. But back in those days, 1999, okay, joining in as an investment banking analyst, this is the package, okay, all right. Not exactly, the kind of profile, right, of a typical investment banker, right? You will find, especially in those early days. I know I will work hard. I know, I will give my very best. But in the industry where it's very competitive, like you can prove yourself, but like you don't have like 6 months to prove yourself. You have to leave a really, really good first impression. Okay? And I was like, man, what am I gonna do? I'm like, wait a second, I'm Asian, right? How can I use the stereotyping of Asian to my advantage, where some of my Caucasian colleagues, men, don't have? So what are some of the words that you would think of when you think about Asians? Stereotyping.
Good at math.
Good at math? What else? Come on. Okay, you nail it. Those are the two I lean into. Okay? I'm like, I'm Asian, I'm good at math, so do not even check my numbers. It's obviously it's right. Right? And I was very hardworking, but even in the off chance I leave the office at 8 p.m. on a Friday night, they think I'm still working when I'm home because I'm Asian, right? And then the fact that I end up staying in investment banking for over a decade show you that actually worked.
Excellent. I love it. Lean into your stereotypes and they turn it into an advantage. Do you want to add anything else, Vivian?
Yeah, I think that's amazing, because that typically what happens, it's like no one will check your math because they're like, okay, well, like of course you're going to be so diligent, because you aim for perfection all the time. This is going to be right, and like let you do it. So I totally agree with that. I would say like a stereotype that also plays into men and women as well is that you're quiet and subservient. One of the things that I always encourage women to do, like when you're in a meeting, I love the standing up, but it's also take up space. So if you look at women in a boardroom, they'll like position themselves, they'll put their notebook like in the perfect place and just like take up their little space, and it's like, oh no, take up your space. You have the right to take up your space, and you should take it. But I think that's like also something like where they expect you to like be small in a room. It's like take the other side of it and make yourself bigger. and also be vocal. So like they don't expect you to be vocal, and when a question goes out on the table, you be the first one to answer. I think if any of you were here this morning with Joyce Chang, who gave the keynote, she's been a very special mentor and sponsor to me at JP Morgan. And the one thing that always sits with me, she's like, never start a sentence with I think. She's like, I know you think. So put your position out on the table without taking back and being like, well, I think. It's like, no, this is my position, and be strong about it, and back it up.
Excellent, thank you. Second question. So all three of you have navigated a diverse set of jobs, careers, companies, from startup to big tech to finance. What would be the recommendation that you would share with the audience based on, one, how did you navigate change? And then two, in those transitions, which are times of incredible opportunity, but also potential anxiety, how did you navigate that change in a way that works to your advantage? Anyone want to go first?
I would say take a risk. I think a lot of times we overthink things, and it's like, this is a living example. I had to prepare for a very important meeting the other day, and I was at the end, and I said, I can't let perfection be the enemy of good. When you're making decks and everything has to line up, and I was like, that's it. Like, I'm gonna have to communicate the words on this page. This leader is not gonna care that the grid lines are not perfect. But what's gonna matter is the message that is delivered in that meeting. So I would say, don't let perfect be the enemy of good, and also take risk. Like, you don't have to have 90% of the answer, or 90% of the whatever the requirements. Like, you can go in with less than that and still be good.
Excellent.
All right, I'll jump in here. I think before I jump into talk about the how, I think, at least for me, I started with a why. In terms of why would I want the career that I've had, created so far. And that is important because things are naturally going to be difficult, right? When you're growing, it's not meant to be easy, okay? And if you're not clear about your why, it's going to be really hard to get through all those challenges. So the first piece of advice I would say is know your why. And I know, and what I'm about to say is probably a little bit stereotyping, but I think I'm kind of right also on that point, which is that as Asian Americans, we are heavily influenced by our upbringing, by what our family, the society, the culture is expect of us, okay? That might be okay when, I was growing up, young, but over time, you really have to press into your why. Your why is my why is different than your why, and your why, and your why, right? So you have to really take the time and do the work to define what success is to you. It's going to be very unique. It's going to be very personal to each of you. If you don't have the why nail, none of the strategies, the how is going to matter. Okay, so that's why I started there first. In my case, as I mentioned, I started my career in investment banking. I did it for over a decade. I have had a lot of success, in a more traditionally defined way. I could have stayed until the very end. I could have retired from JP Morgan or any of the banks I was at, but I chose not to because that wasn't that. Towards the end, it no longer felt authentic to who I am. Okay. Instead, I really dig deep and realize, wait a minute. As much as I I was brought up by my parents, we came to the US from Hong Kong, very traditional. I'm actually someone who is a little bit of a rebel. Okay, I'm a woman, I'm Chinese, but I'm a rebel. Okay, so what I really thrive on are adventure, challenge, growth, and when I talk to my team in the past, and sometimes you might even see me on LinkedIn talking about this, which is I love climbing mountains, even though I don't actually do it for real. But when I think about career, I look at every chapter, every company, every role as climbing a mountain, right? And once I get to the summit, I'm I'm going to come back down and climb another one. And again, that's very unique to me. So every time I get into a new role, get into a new company, I look at that as another mountain to climb, right? So for me, it's less about minimizing the uncertainty or the discomfort. It's about how do I grow so I'm actually bigger. I'm bigger than the uncertainty. I'm bigger than the problem that I'm facing now. And then the last piece of advice I would share is really know your people. Because I would say as much as I'm a little bit rebellious, there are a lot of people that helped me along the way. So I would say from a networking standpoint, again, maybe this is not something that is natural to most of us, but go and spend time with people and network. But when I say network, I don't mean like go meet 1,000 people. Find those people that you truly, deeply connect with and really like kind of cultivate it and keep it going and keep it alive over the years. And that's how I've been able to land like new jobs, new companies, really through the thread of these deep relationships that I have cultivated over the years. So that's how I do it.
Great. And then Mai, before you get started, we are going to open up for some Q&A right after Mai speaks, so feel free to get ready and queue up your thoughts, and then we'll wrap kind of last 3 minutes with a lightning round with our panel members. Any feedback from you? How have you thought about navigating change, and when you do that, how do you manage transitions?
Before my 10 startups, I've actually had 6 careers. I actually started as an analyst in an investment bank. I lasted for 1 year. It was not for me. It's a brutal environment, but you make a ton of money. That aside, what I learned is that I have a high tolerance for pain, I have a high tolerance for failure, and I have a super high tolerance for rejection. And the interesting thing is that I say this all the time, I'm not the strongest chief people officer. I'm not. I know my stuff, but I don't lean in there. Where I spend a lot of my time is actually learning how to communicate. So you'll find me on panels. I try to write a lot. I try to read a lot. I try to learn a lot. Because when you are forced to publicly speak, you have to articulate yourself. And I work hard because Emma, my 16-year-old daughter, is my boss. Like, she's watching everything that I'm doing, and she's at an age where she doesn't listen to me, but she's watching what I'm doing. And so the fascinating thing about this panel today, or this event today, is that my husband's boss was on the panel. So my husband's boss is the CEO of Newsweek. And so Newsweek came earlier today, and they said, you know what, we need a contingency of our Asian Americans from Newsweek. So they all came, and they said, Peter, isn't that your wife up there? And it's that moment, because those are the moments that I want Emma to experience. I don't want her to know that I'm at this great event today. I want her to know it from her father and what her father will tell her. And so, congratulations to John Wang. I will just say, he's been doing this work for 30 years, and he's taught us that we have to build a network and a community together. And so, cheers to 10 years for the roundtable, and cheers to all your hard work.
Love it. Always weaving your family into your career. That's really what makes all of us tick, right? It's not just the job that we do. I talk to the team about, we don't live to work, we work to live, right? So, okay, so now this is your time. Feel free to ask any questions to all of our esteemed panelists. I'm willing to take any as you want as well. We've got about 10 minutes. Anyone want to go first? What questions would you like to ask?
Thank you. The panel is great. Glad that all the women on the panel, there's no men, which is very, I like it. So very, very specific to Vienna from Chobani, which I eat a lot. Before I was eating Chobani, I was only climbing mountains, but now I do mountains after eating Chobani. So maybe that's more to say. Thank you.
Thank you for the plug.
Oh, right next to you.
I have to pay you for advertising.
Thank you. It was a really good panel. So on a serious note, any thoughts about the recent change of the administration's view of D&I?
Mai, you want to take that? I see a look in your eye.
It's a political landmine. I will say that nothing can stop us. I do think regime changes happen constantly, and actually the whole world is getting a little bit more tumultuous. A lot of social and political unrest. But that's why I encourage you to really bet on yourself and bring your community in the fold. You're gonna need help. You cannot do this work alone. And I look around the room and I know some of you who have introduced yourselves, and I hope that we can do it together, because you can't do this work alone. You have forces beyond your control. Right now, the administration is just not very DEI friendly, and we've made a lot of progress. You know, organizations like this didn't exist like 10 years ago, and I know that some organizations did, but now I think we're growing, and I think we have more work to do, more progress to make. And I don't know about you, I don't think we have a lot of time, and I don't think we're moving fast enough, so don't let other people stop you. And like I said this morning, dream big. I don't think we dream big enough, and I think it's about time. We have to break the cycle.
Vivian, in your current role, I'm sure you get this question asked a lot. What do you think?
Yes. Well, I'm going to say that this environment is definitely transformational, and I look at Vienna as the chief transformation officer. But I kind of look at it differently, because we, as a community, have experienced tumultuous times over the, decade, John, that you have led, 20 years that you have led AABDC. There's been peaks and valleys, and we've always come out on the right end. And we need to be focused on our North Star and what is important to community, and try and minimize the noise around us, right? I think we've been talking about this today, come together as community as we've always have, to just continue to push the ball forward. And I think that's what makes spaces like this so important, is the convening of different voices, of different perspectives, to bring together community to agree and align on things that are important to us. And I think we just need to keep that momentum going. I honestly don't think it doesn't change the work, right? I look at John and this doesn't change the work that he does. His North Star is still the same. Building community, bringing allies together to advance equity for all. And that's what we need to keep marching forward.
Great question.
Yeah, let me add just my thoughts here. I'll go back to the example I gave in the very beginning, which is, lean into our stereotyping, right? Like, who's gonna argue the country need people that are hardworking, smart, good at math? So go for it. I don't think it really changed anything. I agree, because we have so much to offer. I think we have to be bold, right?
Yes, here, please.
Thank you, Ruth. I'd like to address the title itself. It's the Asian American Women's Allyship. I look at the definition again on my AI overview. Allyship is a way of supporting and advocating for people who are part of a marginalized group. And that's the definition. I think I know the word, but now today looking at this as a panel. I think you are not alone. For all the Asian Americans out here, you are not alone. I'm an Asian man, but I learned a lot from my better half at home and at work. I think for the panel, I'd like to hear from you, how can you not only be the chief home officer, but bring that to work as well? Bring power up and not stereotyping. We're here for you. Not that we patronize you, but all really understand you are our better half. How would you get a man to be part of your group? Thank you.
Good question. Yes. Power up. And how do we support our male counterparts in powering up?
We're not your enemy, yeah?
Okay, I'll take a stab at this. I think that you need allies of all shapes, sizes, forms. And I think that sometimes the nuance of being a woman in corporate America is lost on men, because they've done studies that show that women will only apply for a role if they hit at least 90 to 95% of the job description. Whereas men, when they apply to roles, they'll be like 50% and it'll be okay. They'll put their name in the hat. And that little nuance, because we are harder on ourselves as women, that nuance is lost. And so, yes, I believe in allyship across genders, across different ethnicities, but there's a special nuance to working in corporate America as a woman. Now, I will tell you that most of my success actually comes from a lot of people who invested in me that are men, because those are the rooms that I roamed. It was always me and the men. And so they took chances on me, they coached me, they mentored me, they put me in front of boards. So I've learned from that, but I want to give back. And part of this will be educating and talking about the nuances, and sometimes being lost in the details. But I think that as women, we should support each other for sure. And I think I was talking to somebody this morning where women are sometimes the hardest on each other. So, like, I see a lot of nodding heads from the women in the room, but we are hard. We already have high standards, and it just gets harder navigating corporate America. So, in for the ride, but lots of education and lots of nurturing needed.
Yeah, something, Mai, that you said that absolutely resonated with me is taking chances. Like, if you think about your career journey, someone took a chance on you and opened a door that was closed. And if each of us in this room can do that for somebody else, the power of that collective of taking a chance on someone to give them the opportunity to move and advance forward is very powerful.
I think for me, it's actually, this is what I'm going to answer with, trying to take away the stereotyping, okay? Because when you think about a man, right, what's the stereotyping? Oh, he's strong, he's assertive, but maybe that moment when the man want to be vulnerable, let him be. Give him the space to be vulnerable to himself, right? So it's really going back to the individual, not about, oh, if he's a man, she's a woman, then these are the 10 adjectives I'm going to use to describe each person. No, just be with the person and let him or her be who they are. I think that's how we can support each other.
Excellent. Great. We can take one more question before I do our lightning round to finish up. Yes, up front.
Hi, good afternoon. So my question for you guys is based upon my own experience. Over the years that I've realized that I get to learn from every person, every experience that I have. Some people I meet and I look at the qualities and I right away go, those are the qualities that I want in me, that is what I want to imbibe. And there might be some other qualities which I find that is exactly what I don't want, and that is not something I do. So while finding an ally or building that allyship, what are those traits or qualities that one should always look for?
Say empathy.
I have 4. I think I'll do things in ones. One is, I really am inspired by smart people. And everybody's smart in their own way, but I really enjoy those that are like Renaissance smart, like smart all over the place. 2 is I look for hungry people. Like, we all want to make an impact. We work, 10 to 15 hours a day. And I feel that when you're really hungry and want to make that impact, you show up differently. You give, and you have a lot of discretionary effort. And the 3rd thing is grit. My family is an immigrant family, so I watch my parents work. And that hard work ethic is in me, and I think that grit is something that I also treasure in others, because it's a long marathon, and especially in corporate America and some of these places, it is not a sprint. So you have to have people that inspire you. And finally, my 4th, probably most important, is you have to stay curious. Read, write, learn, ask questions, and generally, when you start talking to more people, be very clear about who's in your orbit, because the right people in your orbit will propel you.
I'll just have one last word I would add. Kindness. The world is tough. I think we can all be kind to each other. So.
I'll add, I think intellectual curiosity and grit, which our panel members talked about, is really important. But in the culture that we live in, I think high EQ is super critical, right? You talk about how our panel members and many Asians tend to have this stereotypical image of we work hard, we're really good at math, but we are of high integrity. But I think some of the things that get in our own way is the EQ, the EQ and the high ability to understand and adapt, read a room and adapt accordingly. And that's kind of, I think, a little bit of a fine line between those that do really well and those that accelerate ahead in their career. Okay, wonderful, wonderful questions. I'm sure that there's so many more that we can talk about in the cocktail hour. Lightning round, one question each. So, what would be your one-word recommendation to our earlier and mid-career business professionals as they think about advancing their career? One word.
One word. Phrase.
Phrase is okay.
Know your why.
You broke the rule. One word. Oh, it was a phrase.
With dash.
Oh,
No
okay.
dash.
No, you are one. Okay. I'll say, take dash risk.
Bet on yourself.
Awesome. So I actually had written in the closing, right? A few things to talk about. Know your why. Take risks. Leverage your strengths. More importantly, widen the tent and eat Chobani. So, one last thing I was going to let everyone know. In March is International Women's Day. The AABC has commissioned a study on Asian American women in corporate leadership. It will be coming out in March. We are having a session on March 28th. Please, around a leadership forum as we think about International Women's Day. Please look for that information coming forward. Thank you so much for spending the time with us, and we look forward to networking further.